Sport. Here it is, the crossover between the Locked On Astros and the Locked On White Sox podcast. And today, if you're listening to on Thursday, will be the clash of the Titans, the Astros versus the White Sox. It's be Lance McCullers versus Lance Lynn. Really? That's the best you got, White Sox? Lance Lynn? All righty. We'll talk about that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Astros podcast and the Locked On White Sox, I think.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Astros. You find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros. And we want you to make Locked On Astros your first listen. When you get in your car, tell your mobile device to play podcast Locked On Astros.
All right, I think that's all the introductions we got for tonight's show. Let's go and get started. We got two guys down there. I think they're on a show called the Locked On White Sox podcast. So I think they've got a pretty good team. So Herb and Chris, to go ahead and tell us a little bit about your show and where they can find you on Twitter.
Well, me, Herb Lawrence, Ecknerwall 23. That is Chris Tannehill at Chris Tannehill. And our show is just called Locked On Sox. Chris likes to call it Locked On White Sox because the Red Sox or whatever. We're the Sox, Locked On Sox. And we're, available on all the platforms that you have out there, including Locked On Sox on YouTube.
Yeah.
Chris?
And our show is basically Herb and I have been friends for we're going on 15 years now. We both work at 670 The Score, a Chicago sports radio station. So we kind of bring our media experience and our friendship to the table on this show, and we keep it light, we keep it fun, we keep it irreverent, and we like to keep it honest about our Sox. So, and right now we feel pretty good about our team. So that's where we're at with it.
So looking past 2020, it's kind of been a little while since y'all had a taste of the playoffs, and I don't want y'all to mention the year that y'all won the last World Series because it's kind of a little bit hurtful, and it seems like a hero of that year is going to be throwing out the first pitch for the Astros before Game 1. I believe that's correct, right, Brett?
Jeff Blum. Actually, I thought it was Friday's game 2.
Game 2? Okay.
Yeah, but Jeff Blum. It's an interesting choice. Jeff Blum's part of a statue that is in front of, I've heard it's called the Cell. Is that correct?
Well, it used to be called the Cell. Now they changed it because of the corporate sponsorship. It's called Guaranteed Rate Field. It's terrible. The Cell was because it was secondly called U.S. Cellular Field. So, yeah, it's terrible now.
We had Blummer on Parkinson Spiegel show today, and if he was running for office, I would vote for him. He's a total politician. He said, "Hey, it's a no-lose situation for me. My former team, where I was a World Series hero, they win, I look good. Astros win, I look good." So I gotta love that from the guy, and I think that'll bring us some positive vibes, especially in that ballpark. So I'm looking forward to the Blummer out there tomorrow.
Yeah, when I did my old podcast, Talking Stros, I had him on, and I was able to not really cuss him out, but I was able to say, you hit that home run. You didn't hit a home run all year long, and then you hit a home run in the biggest World Series. So, but he's come on the show a few times, so I didn't really burn any bridges there. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the White Sox team this year. Tell us what's going on with Carlos Rodon. I know that he was your ace basically all year, and now he's having a little bit arm issues. What's going on with him?
Well, Carlos has had a history of arm issues, whether shoulder, the Tommy John a couple times. And he came back last year at the end of 2020, and he was terrible. He was throwing about 91, 92. He was getting hit hard by Cleveland, and then he came into the Oakland playoff game, and he was horrible. The White Sox didn't tender an offer for him, and pretty much he was out there, and the White Sox like, okay, $3 million, Carlos Rodon, a reclamation project. This is our last chance with you. He shoved this year. He was throwing 100 miles per hour sometimes, and you guys saw down there in Houston, he talked smack about Houston before he went down there and then went down and delivered 7 innings. I think he gave up a run, even though the Houston Astros won that game. And then when Houston returned to Chicago, he shoved again. I think 7 innings and no earned runs there. And ever since, what do we say, Tanny, middle August, his velocity's gone down. He says he's not hurt, but he's pitching, topping out at 93 miles per hour. So before he got hurt, we're like, yeah, if we match up with Houston, we're going to have him as game 1 guy and then go with Lance Lynn game 2 and have Giolito's game 3. But since he's gotten hurt, tired, whatever it is, it's been a mystery. He doesn't want to say he's hurt. I have to believe he's hurt, but the MRI and all the stuff that they've run through say that technically and structurally he's not hurt. So they've been giving him days of bullpen rest and saying that he's fine, but never encouraging. So he might pitch game 4, but if it was up to me, maybe start the game and then just, go to the bullpen early. Chris, I mean, I don't know your thoughts on Carlos Rodon. I just don't feel confident. If we had him, mercy.
Yeah, it's certainly a different look from this team without him going out there. He was my game 1 starter as well, especially in that environment where that stuff plays anytime, any place. But I think they're at a crossroads here. He's at a professional crossroads where he's on an expiring contract, looking to cash in for his first real payday. He took a hometown discount to get back with the White Sox in 2021, and now he had pitched the best season of his career, and he's looking to get paid. And I'm not saying that's what's going on with him, but I think he's hit a wall. I think he's got a dead arm for the second time in 2021, and they're trying to do everything they can to get him some rest. But I think his manager, Tony La Russa, is over it. That's why I think you won't see him until game 4 if the series gets that far. But I think if you do see him, he'll be piggybacked by someone like Michael Kopech, and they'll just bullpen it. Or he topped out at 93 last time, and that, he was not averaging 93. That's what he topped out at. So I would expect to not see him for very long if you see him at all, or maybe he's saving it all for the Astros, which would not surprise me either. But yeah, man, certainly not how we would have drawn it up a couple months ago, but it's the situation you have now. But the White Sox have a deep, strong bullpen, so that's actually catering to one of the White Sox strengths. You just hope they don't tax that bullpen in the first couple games.
Yeah, so like Mr. Corona mentions, one of our faithful followers, he says, it's a very bold move to have Lynn start in game 1, considering his lack of success versus the Astros. We spoke with Mike Stanton last night from AT&T Sportsnet, and we thought that Lucas Giolito would be the guy that would go game 1. You've got Lance McCullers, who is a big game playoff pitcher, and then you pick Lance Lynn, who really has not had success against the Astros. The year he should have won the Cy Young, every time he pitched against the Astros, I think Eric mentioned last night he had like almost a 15 ERA. It was pretty large for someone like Lance Lynn, who has been a quality pitcher over the last few years. Why do they go with Lance Lynn instead of Lucas Giolito?
I think it's kind of a thing where he's their ace this year, even though Giolito's been pitching much better in the second half. And it's like, okay, say if Lance Lynn is Lance Lynn where he doesn't pitch versus the Astros, so he's a filthy ace. And I know the Houston Astros are a fastball hitting team, and that's what Lance Lynn offers. Say the White Sox get that victory, then you have found money and Lucas Giolito going in game 2. Troubles for the Houston Astros, and then you got to come back to Chicago. So maybe that's the thought process right there with Tony La Russa. Like, you start Lucas Giolito and you lose that game, and then you got to go to a guy that always struggles versus the Astros, down 0-2, going back to Chicago. Not a good look. Maybe get some found money with Lance Lynn. He shoves for 5 or 6. Go to that dominant bullpen.
So speaking of bullpen, I'm sorry, Chris. You can go and elaborate. How deep is your bullpen this year? Go ahead, Chris.
It's very deep, and the guys that are there can go multiple innings. I think they're 2 best guys they have in that bullpen. Let's talk about Craig Kimbrell first. He was awesome before he came over to the White Sox from the Cubs, but Tony kind of broke him a little bit, and he's sort of on a downward plane here. But if you get him, that adds a totally different dynamic to this bullpen. But the other guys who can go multiple innings, talk about Michael Kopech, who they've been stretching out the past week or so. He went 3 innings in the season finale the other day. And Liam Hendriks, who you guys know from your time watching the AL West over the years, coming over from Oakland, multiple inning reliever. He's pitching as good as he has all season. So if you have to really shorten the game up, you could conceivably, have, Lance Lynn go for 5 and then, Kopech 2. And then if you want to throw Kimbrel out there for 1 and Liam Hendricks for 1, you could do that, or you can just do Kopech right to Liam Hendricks. So they've got options, and they've got options with some length. So I really like the way this bullpen profiles out right now. And if they can get Craig Kimbrel going, that'll be a nice revelation here in this postseason.
So with this team having a offense like they do, with Anderson really kind of making a name for himself, and I know a lot of Astros fans are endeared to him because of the way he talks about the Astros. He admires the Astros. It seems like he talks about them a lot jokingly. I'm of course, I'm being sarcastic, but you've got Luis Robert, who's back. You've got, Abreu, who is just a MVP caliber. Moncada, who's kind of been, up and down. How do you think Russa has done this year? Because, he came in with some controversy to start the year, and there were some things about him and just off the field stuff. Has he been able to weather that? And how do you think he's managed this team up to this point?
Well, I'm a guy who says that managers don't matter. And what I mean by that is the in-game stuff, that's not really a difference maker. I think where Russa thrives, and especially this year, is how he gets the players off the field to love him, how he has the everyman, like Luis Garcia, play a lot. So at the end of the year, Luis Garcia is a good contributor. These guys like Brian Goodwin, and when you had injuries early in the year, when Brian Goodwin had to play, you get a quality effort out of him. Yermin Mercedes early in the year, even though that didn't go well, he gets people integrated into the game. He's not just playing his stars for 150. And by the end of the year, everybody feels like they contribute to a division winner. And so Tony's best thing is relating to the people. He is a great debater. He's a lawyer by trade. I think that Tony has done a great job, a better job than I thought he would, in bringing this team and relating with guys who are much younger and letting the culture still do its thing. Right. The White Sox are a team that likes to have an enjoyable time. We thought he was going to tamp that down, especially after that Yermin Mercedes whole episode. But for the most part, Tony's let the guys be the guys. He's enjoyed, the guys having a little personality, and that's all they want. That's their clubhouse. If you have a problem with that, Tony, we're good, and he hasn't. And so I'm applaud what Tony has done off the field and his in-game managing, whatever that's worth. And if you think that's worth something cool, it's been fine for me, Tanny.
Yeah, I think he's had some shaky moments early on in the season that he's been able to overcome. But I think the best thing he could have done, and he did it very effectively, was endear himself to the 2 most powerful guys in that clubhouse, which is Jose Abreu and Tim Anderson. Jose Abreu sought counsel from Albert Pujols, and Albert Pujols says, "You're going to love this guy." So that was a big step. And then Tim Anderson came out and said, "You know what? Tony's just the guy that makes the lineup." And I thought that was he was the first one to fire the first shot in the whole Cold War between manager and White Sox player personnel. But that was really never a thing, because once they got into spring training, this team has taken on a different identity than it had in years prior. Because I'm not saying that this team wasn't all about the business last year and the year before, but definitely this year, I think Tony's helped bring that level of focus to keep everything in perspective. Look, the only thing that matters this season is putting yourself in the best spot come October. And now here they are. And for the most part, they're as healthy as any team can be at this point. They're rested, and they're playing with a little bit mojo here ever since they clinched last week in Cleveland, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. So they're playing good baseball at a good time. And I think that's why you have a guy like Tony La Russa. So I'd say overall, he's done a pretty good job.
It sounds like Tony Russa knows how to get the right parts for his bullpen, his whole team. And it sounds like RockAuto is a place that he may go to get his parts for his automobile. So Brett, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, whether you're Tony La Russa and driving a 1972 Chrysler, or you are Luis Robert driving a Ferrari or one of these flashy cars that the Astros have, it doesn't matter what make or what model you have, because it's impossible to go to a local chain store and find all the parts you need. Why endure the intimidating questioning of asking about an LX or an SE, and then he or she goes to the computer and they're looking for the parts that only they can get from their warehouse, and then they find out you're not a mechanic, so they upcharge you. It's basically a big hustle for them. So why don't you hustle the car parts guys and go to rockauto.com? Save time and money using RockAuto. You can spend 30, 50, sometimes 100% more at the chain store. You can save that money because when you're trying to fix your car or truck, you want the money to stay in your pocket, not leave your pocket. So it's a family-owned business serving do-it-yourselfers like all of us on this show. They have reliably low prices, and they have an easily navigable website. Whether you need brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, or even new carpet for that jalopy you drive, it's okay. They've got it at rockauto.com. Go explore their easy-to-use website and find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts that your car will ever need. Right Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box to let them know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
All right. Chris and Herb, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to go ahead and turn the show over to y'all to ask us some questions. So y'all have some questions about the Astros before we talk about the series as a whole.
And I would like to say to our fans, thank you for making Locked On Sox your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Sox is free and available on all platforms, including this one right here on YouTube at Locked On Sox. Chris, you got any questions for the guys?
Yeah, what was your favorite moment of Roger Clemens' Game 1 start against the White Sox in 2005?
Wow.
Low blow.
Oh,
I knew that was
gosh.
coming.
And Chris disappears from the screen.
I got to put my kid to bed anyway.
Here.
Holy
I can do that,
shnikes.
actually.
That was rough. He's gone, folks. He got canceled. Oh my God, dude, you had to go there. Wow, that was kind of impressive.
Well, yeah, we don't have a recent World Series like you guys do, so we have to rely on 2005. Hopefully that'll change soon. But I did want to ask you guys, we were previewing this matchup, Lynn versus McCullers. I know a lot of your listeners are questioning the Lance Lynn decision for the Sox, but he's had this game circled on his calendar for quite some time. He knew about a week ago that he was going to get the ball. I got to ask you about Lance McCullers Jr. He's been a model of consistency during his career. He's had an ERA in the low threes in 5 of his 6 seasons. What's been the key to his success? He's been dominant against the White Sox in his career. Granted, this season he's 2-0, but it's a different Sox team this go around in the postseason. But and he's played some bad Sox teams in his career. But overall, he's been just a really good major leaguer. What's been his big key to success as an Astro?
I think Lance McCullers is he's a big game pitcher. B, he solidified his place in Houston Astros history with the contract he signed. And even he said it today in the press conference for the ALDS, that it just something about Houston that he feels at home. He's ingrained in the city. He is a part of not just the Astros, but a part of the community. And so this guy, unlike anybody else on this team, goes out and puts the weight of the city on his shoulders, and it doesn't seem to affect him in a negative way. He comes through in big moments. We call him the Iceman. He has ice in his veins, and he's not intimidated by any opponent. And I promise you, he will come prepared. And he does know, and the Astros do know, that the White Sox may not have been at full strength when they faced them and they swept them at Minute Maid Park. But that's where I think Lance McCullers comes in and brings big game experience success, and a will and a drive to defeat the opponent, even if he has to use 24 curveballs in a row to do it.
Yeah, so this year he led the AL in opponents' batting average and OPS against. One thing he did struggle with this year is a little bit with command, and that's something that he wants to improve upon. That's something that I think he put a lot of weight on himself, but I think he was trying to pitch up to his contract, and he was trying to just be too perfect. But he is definitely, he came on the show earlier this year, and he came in and we asked him, in the playoffs, who would you start game 1? And because we had Greinke at the time, and Greinke was having great season, and he was, well, I think that was preseason, but yeah. So he said, look, I think, I'm just, not to be honest, but I think I should get the ball game 1 just because I have the drive, and I think I'm the best pitcher there. And so he said that it's a privilege to be able to play October baseball. He said his father played many years in the game, 7-8 years. And I know the guys would go their whole careers and never get a postseason in general. In fact, Kendall Graveman, this is his first postseason. I didn't even know that, but this is a guy who thrives, like Brett said, and he's a guy who's not afraid to go out there, unlike a Yankees pitcher, he's afraid. He's not afraid to go out there and just pitch his best game.
Yeah, I'll take an $85 million ace over a $324 million ace any day of the week. Garrett Cole, 0-2.
I saw you tweet about that. Is there animosity there that he didn't stick around in Houston because he took his career to the next level with you guys, and then he bounces for the big time deal? Did a little bit last night?
I don't necessarily think it's pointed at Garrett Cole per se. It's pointed at the Eric Hubbs of the world and the Yankees fans who told us that they were going to win the next 10 World Series because of Garrett Cole. And, Aaron Boone said the league finally closed the gap on us. No, the Red Sox closed the gap on you. They're 9-1 against you in the playoffs. There's never been a gap because they've never beat us in the playoffs. So the Yankees are living in 2009, and that's their problem. Garrett Cole's a great pitcher. He's been struggling the last month. But I don't know if there's necessarily animosity towards him or the team that he's on, because I love watching the Yankees lose.
Yeah, I mean, while I'm not an Astros fan, there's one guy on the team, firstly, I'm scared of, and then secondly, I respect. No, it's not Altuve or Correa or Tucker. It's the best hitter. It's the best hitter on your team. It's Michael Brantley.
Okay.
Now, why did he come back? Why didn't he be a White Sox? I am just so pissed that Michael Brantley, every time he comes up, left center field double, home run, left center field double. Is there a chance that Michael Brantley can miss this whole series, please?
Unfortunately, he appears to be healthy. I mean, there were some question marks because he missed some time with a little knee issue. This is something that he's kind of struggled with. I think he played at Arlington Field or whatever they call it, Globe Life Field.
We call it Tough Shed Stadium.
Yeah, whatever the new stadium is up there. So, but he played there and he's had some knee issues this year. But he's back and he's healthy, and I think he's gonna be in the lineup every day. So yes, he will be there. He is not the home run threat he used to be, but I think he finished second or third in the batting average behind Yuli Gurriel. And yes, I think he tied with Vladimir Guerrero. So this is a guy who can still get the hits. Is he going to hit him out of the ballpark? No, but he does find a way in big games to get that big hit. So you might have to watch out for him. So I know you have to look Alvarez and the Correas and the Altuves, but Brantley, you can't sleep on him.
Sorry, go ahead.
So this is what he said today to Mark Berman of Fox 26. He said, I like our chances. This is a veteran group that's been there, done that. They're experienced. They know exactly what we need to do to go out and handle business. I think that's special. I think this is a weapon. I wouldn't be on any other team. I love these guys. Michael Brantley has bought into the atmosphere and the culture in Houston. And even when Springer left and when the rumors were that Brantley was leaving too, like the sky was falling in Houston, when Brantley decided to stay, I think he knew what he was leaving versus what he was going to. And that value of his veteran leadership and his calm demeanor, he's never panicked. He's never worried. Even if he goes 0 for 3 in a game or 0 for 4, he comes back the next game and 3 for 4, like you said. One of the dumbest things that Cleveland could have done is let him walk out of Cleveland. Why you don't keep this guy until he's 48 years old, I don't know. I mean, I want Brantley to be here. I want him to be like Julio Franco. I want him to play till he's 50. Let's do this.
I mean, every time I see him, he hits kids. Go ahead, Chancey.
No, it's a different World. I think in 2016 against the Healthy, and the Sox have seen him in the Central tear them up for years. So Herb and I both, he signed quickly in January, and we both wondered, like, man, yeah, we were pissed because that was one of our top guys on Rick Hahn's radar. If we had his checkbook, but
we got Adam Eaton, yay!
Hooray!
Adam Eaton, a poor man's Michael Brantley,
a homeless man's Michael Brantley,
a dead man's Michael Brantley.
So let's real quick. I know let's get to another guy who he kind of had his swan song in the last homestand. Carlos Correa. What happened there? What went sideways here with this relationship with Carlos Correa, and why isn't he a guy that's going to be an Astro for life? Maybe he may be, but it certainly didn't seem that way after that last homestand.
Well, it's same thing with happened to George Springer. They offered George Springer a contract, and it wasn't even in the ballpark of what Springer wanted. So Springer was, from what I've heard, he was insulted and basically didn't even sit down and want to talk about it anymore. So there was no conversation. And so with Carlos Correa, I think Carlos Correa is interested in staying in Houston. But he literally, the contract, what was it, 5 years?
It was 6 years, 120 is what they gave Xander Bogaerts.
Yeah. So basically that's what the Astros offered. And he said, that's not even close. I want to get close to Francisco Lindor money. And so he said, look, the season's about to start. I don't want to stress over it this season. I want to have my best season, where he finished with the top WAR among position players. So he did what he needed to do this year to earn his money, but he did not want to stress about it. So he told the Astros, look, I don't want to have any type of negotiations this year. So I want to wait till after the season to do any negotiations. So he said the right things this year. I want to stay with the Astros. I want to do what it takes to be here, but the Astros have to meet somewhere in the middle to pay him the money. And I don't know if the Astros have not done that. The biggest money they've given is to Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman, and now to Lance McCullers, but they don't do these long-term deals, especially under Jim Crane. They don't do it. They don't believe in doing this. So if they're going to do this, they're going to set a precedent that they're going to have to follow for Yordan Alvarez, maybe
Kyle Tucker.
Jose Altuve once he's up for renewal. So the Astros are having to thread some walk on some thin ice here, because yes, Carlos Correa should stay in Houston. We saw last year when everybody was talking about the little scandal that the Astros had. Carlos Correa was the one that was talking back to everybody, saying, well, yeah, we did this, but Jose Altuve did not. And so he was the one kind of standing up for the team. And so Carlos Correa has become the face of the franchise. He showed this year that he can stay healthy. He can be productive. He's not going to be that 40 home run a year guy, but he can still be the great defensive guy. And so the Astros need to do what they need to do, but they're probably going to have to wait till after the postseason to do that.
Yeah, it's going to be afterwards. Carlos Correa did himself favors all year long with his defense. I mean, and you look at his postseason, 17 home runs and 56 at bats. That's almost unmatched. Almost as clutch as who we called Mr. October and George Springer, who's no longer here. But if you go to the Astros organization history, White Sox fans, you go all the way back to Nolan Ryan, when the Astros were not even willing to give Nolan Ryan, I believe it was like $3 million, and he walked and went to the Rangers. And every time I see Nolan Ryan in a Rangers uniform on a Hall of Fame plaque, it bugs me, because he should have a Houston star in an H on his hat. He should have gone in as an Astro. And he would have accomplished all those things he accomplished in Arlington had he stayed in Houston. With that being said, I think that's the biggest swing and miss in franchise history. I think Carlos Correa could match that, not only because he's younger, but because of the effect he has on this team. Like Eric mentioned, he is the apex predator. He does put the team on his back, and he has become the leader. You know, and I mentioned this last night, in his first playoff game, he was interviewed and asked in Yankee Stadium, are you nervous about playing your first playoff game in Yankee Stadium? He said, why would I be nervous? I've been preparing for this since I was 5. That's the guy you want on your team. The only other teams I can see him going to, the Rangers, the Yankees, or the Tigers, and I would hate to see him in any of those uniforms, because this is an organization, I'm telling you guys, mark my words, bookmark this. The Astros will be top 4 in the AL for the next 4 to 5 seasons, period.
I know you said you hate seeing Nolan Ryan in a Rangers uniform, but us White Sox also hate that because of Robin Ventura.
Yes. He's the only guy to get 5 hits off of Nolan Ryan in one game.
There he is. I hear rocking.
It hurts. I mean, you want to talk about low blows. Come on, man. Come on. It hurts our heart. We're talking earlier about you're going to have Framber Reyes going to pitch game 2. Valdez. Sorry. I don't know why I want to put him Reyes as like the Franimal. Sorry. Valdez. Framber Valdez pitching game 2. I'm looking at the lineup. Are you guys going to do crisscross applesauce for Game 3? Are we going with Zach Greinke?
No, Greinke's going to be in the bullpen, so they're
Ooh,
not going to
even
do
better.
a opener. So Greinke. The reason why Greinke's going to bullpen is he has struggled against right-handers this year. So y'all have a very right-handed heavy lineup. So I think that we'll see him in the bullpen for like maybe a 2-inning stint here and there. But Greinke, he struggled with some health at the end, and his velocity was a little bit off, and he just wasn't the same Zach Greinke he was to start the year. So I think the Astros and Greinke himself decided that, look, I would help the team a little bit more in the bullpen, and this is something that nobody thought that Dusty Baker would a move that he would make, because he's a veteran type of guy, and it's not something that you would bet on. And it's just a weird situation that I don't think even betonline.ag would even make a move on. So Chris, go and tell us a little bit about betonline.ag.
Absolutely. They're back and better than ever, and all eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back for another football season. But we're all here. We all know the matchup we're talking about. The big one here, of course, it's Bears and Raiders. Bears 5.5-point dogs in Las Vegas, but Justin Fields is going to be under center to begin his decade of dominance. The over-under set at 44. Herb, where are we going on this one? Bears Raiders.
Well, I don't like the Bears to win the game, but the covering, hell yeah. That's a glorified home game. While the Raiders enjoyed the LA confines the other day, it won't be as such, but there'll be a lot of Bears fans up there in the Allegiant Stadium in Raider Town. And our guy Justin Fields starting, I'm seeing him covering that 5 easily.
And as always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all pro and college football action this season. They've got a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football and even baseball. They've got the lines here for Sox and Astros. Sox 1.5 dogs here, a plus 1.5, and over-under set at 8. I'm inclined to go under on that one, and you can go to BetOnline, sign up today, get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. Football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing deals available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Okay, so Chris, are you going to put your money where your mouth is? Or are you going to go out and bet on that since you think the White Sox are going to win?
Well, I have the Sox winning in 4, but I don't have them winning game 1. I think this is a tough matchup going against McCullers Jr., but I do like the under in this one. I think Lance Lynn's going to give a lot better effort than you guys are giving him credit for, and your viewers here will. But I don't have the Sox winning game 1. I have them stealing game 2 behind Giolito, and then who knows what will happen. I think they come home and seal the deal. But I'm not touching this game 1, at least with my heart here on the White Sox. Can't do it. If I had to bet this one, I'm taking McCullers here and the Astros in the under.
Okay, what about you, Herb?
I'm a big-time fan of Lance Lynn, and yes, all the numbers, all the metrics say that the Astros are going to pound him because that's what they do. The fastball reliance, the Astros are a fastball-hitting team. Sometimes you just got a gut feeling. Now, betting on it will be a little tough. I just feel that Lance Lynn is our ace, and I trust that man with my life. Let's go. White Sox in that first game.
Okay.
I like your confidence. I know, I like your confidence. I think it will go 4 games, and I think 3 of those will go in the Astros' favor. I think we take it in the 4th game, win the first 2, y'all win game 3, and then we come back and win game 4. But maybe I'm looking through rose-colored glasses. I know one of our listeners said, hey, why don't y'all break down the lineups? Because our lineups are kind of equal, and I know we're going to move on to the series and talk about the series in these matchups.
That's part of the series, so we can talk about the lineup.
Yeah. So I mean, why don't we
we don't know the batting order, or I mean, Dusty Baker kind of throws things in, but we can talk about what the the positions and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We can go. We can break down the position.
Let's start with the first base. Okay, so we got Yuli Gurriel playing first base. He won his first batting title in America. This is the second batting title. He won one in Cuba where he batted 500. So this is the first time he won one in America. So and he's had coming off a really great season. And y'all have who do y'all have at first base?
Jose Abreu. You may have heard of
Who's
him.
that?
He won the American League MVP for 2020. He's actually has flu-like symptoms, and he didn't travel with the team when they broke for Houston.
Really?
But he's en route right now. So this is a guy who.
Sorry.
This guy who's a legend in Cuba. I'm sure Yuri Gurriel has a poster of Jose Abreu in his room there. But this is a guy
I think it's opposite.
is Gurriel older there?
Yeah,
but
I believe so. Yeah, because the Gurriel family's like royalty in Cuba.
Oh, he's 37.
Yeah. Yuli's dad is like Michael Jordan in Cuba. And Yuli Gurriel looks like he's 23. I mean, the dude looks young. So first base, I think, could almost be a push. I don't know how Abreu is defensively. I know that if Yuli Gurriel isn't in the talk for Gold Glove this year, I think it would be criminal because he's a very good first baseman. Abreu's defense, is it there? Because we don't watch. I know he's a great hitter. What's his defense like?
It's improved, but he is not a Gold Glove caliber first baseman. He's just on that level below, maybe a level below that. But like he used to be not a butcher, but a guy that you couldn't trust at first base. Last year he improved. That's kind of partly why he won the MVP, because he was so good at first base. But any ball that's thrown to him, thrown in his direction, he pretty much is going to grab. So that's he's pretty solid at first base. A guy that I don't worry about defensively. That's what I would say about him.
All right, so at second base we have Jose Altuve.
Never heard of him.
Who's
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I doubt that.
All I know about him is like he's got a bad tattoo or something, and his wife doesn't want him with his shirt
off. Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of him then.
You mean Nick Magical Sr.
Wow.
Seriously, they actually said that Nick Magical was going to be Jose Altuve. I almost threw my goddamn phone when I saw that. Oh my God, White Sox fans are going over the moon with that. I was like, calm down. That's a singles hitter. Yeah, Altuve is great.
Yeah, he's got 31 home runs. His batting average is not the same as it used to be, but he still batted 278 with 839 OPS. His stolen bases he's not the same. He doesn't have the same legs as he used to, but he's still a great all-around hitter. Who do y'all have at second base?
That's a big question mark right there. I think Tony may play the matchups because they acquired Cesar Hernandez from the Indians halfway through the season there at the trade deadline, and he has been very underwhelming since coming over. He had 18 homers since he came when he came over, and that was that led the team at the time of the trade, but he hasn't hit many since then, and he won a Gold Glove in 2020, and we have not seen that caliber defense either. So Herb and I have been talking about him as a guy that they need to get going, and a guy that hopefully once October begins and you can wipe the slate clean, that's a guy who sort of reverts back to more of what he has been in the past. But that's a big question mark. I think maybe you may even see Leury Garcia, who has been the utility man all year, a left-handed bat against the right-hand McCullers, play second base. Hernandez is also left-handed, but more of a contact guy in Leury. That's one of those things we'll have to wait and see when that lineup posts tomorrow, who Tony's going to end up going with there.
So it sounds like, just by look at Herb's face, that Altuve won that one.
I mean, versus most people, but yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we're slight at the second base position.
Especially against Whit Merrifield, since he hates Altuve.
So let's go with the shortstop position. We got Carlos Correa, who's pretty good. He's leading the position players with WAR. And I know you've got Mr. Anderson at Tim Anderson, who's had a pretty good season himself with 17 home runs and 18 stolen bases, batting .309 with 806. So tell us a little bit about Mr. Anderson.
The heart and soul, the straw that stirs the drink. If Tim Anderson gets hits, or if Tim Anderson scores a run, it's trouble. Like, there was a stat, I don't have it on hand, but Tim Anderson gets a home run, the White Sox are pretty much undefeated. He is the leadoff hitter for the White Sox, not a prototypical leadoff hitter because he doesn't get on by walking. He gets on by hitting, and when he's in the lineup, the White Sox are a different team altogether. Now, this overall matchup, I mean, Carlos Correa is one of the best players in the league, much less the shortstops. It's probably going to go with you, but I wouldn't want to have any other shortstop. And yes, it's blasphemous. I know you guys are hearing this and you're thinking, oh my God, why? Tim Anderson is the complete package for us. He does things off the field, on the field. He is Chicago. He lives in Chicago, which is a very, very rare thing for a player who's not from here to live in the city. in the off season. You know, he's a guy from Alabama that lives year round in the cold and he does stuff in the community. Tim Anderson is Mr. White Sox for me. It's either him or Jose Abreu, but Tim Anderson is just a guy that I wouldn't trade for anybody. He's just that special of a player here in Chicago.
And I think as long as we're not playing in the Field of Dreams Cornfields baseball stadium, I think I'm fine with that. Now, real quick, we're gonna jump to the outfield, but third base, because we can't miss Mr. Alex Bregman, Mr. Astro, Mr. Bravado, talk smack. He's the guy that the opposing team loves to hate. But at third base, you guys have who's on your side of the field? Who's handling the hot corner for the White Sox?
Tanny?
That would be a Yoan Moncada, who I've got up here.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I don't know where he is. There's so many up here. But yeah, Yoan Moncada is a guy. He doesn't have the name that Alex Bregman does, but I think in 5 years you could be looking at Yoan Moncada as a guy who's like, this is one of the best players in the American League. When he's on his game, like he suffered from COVID in 2020, and he was not the same guy. You could tell, you could see the difference there. He bounced back this year. He's a top tier defender at third base. He makes all the plays. Really great athlete, switch hitter, a guy who had a bit of a power surge towards the last weekend of the series here against the Tigers, and that's a guy who, if he's going to have power production, it could be a problem for the Astros here. But this is the guy that the rebuild was launched around in 2016. He came over in the Chris Sale trade from the Red Sox. This is one of the cornerstone pieces of this franchise. And although he doesn't make all the flashy plays, and you won't see him quoted in media, but this guy has been the cornerstone for what they've been trying to do in terms of a guy who go out there, whether he's hurt or not, he'll go out there at third base and play a strong defense, and he'll work a deep count, he'll draw his walks, and he'll take you deep on occasion. Again, Bregman's a great player, but Yoan Moncada is the guy who really turned this franchise around when he came over from the Red Sox.
And to piggyback off what Chris just said, like if you look at Fangraphs, maybe you look at the numbers of Yoan, you see 263, 375, 412. You're like, ugh, what's so special? 14 home runs at third base, and that's not that great. He's the third best in F4 in the league, behind Jose Ramirez and Rafael Devers. Right. Like, he does it with the glove and with the bat. He'll take his walk. He'll get on base, and he'll do some base running that is up to par with some of the best in the league. I know the metrics don't necessarily say that, but he cuts the corners. He gets low flying. He looks like a running back on those base pass. Yoan Moncada will turn the power on eventually, and might be in this series. Like Chris said, he's a switch hitter. He can do power from the right or left hand side. He had COVID, and I think maybe some of that drained him last year, and it's seeping into this year. So the power numbers haven't come this year. But if you look at the 2019 year, the power was there, and it's going to return one of these days. And I think Yoan Moncada is one of the best third basemen in this game.
Hey, Brett, real quick, go ahead and kind of lump all the outfielders and the DH together.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So for the Astros, we have Michael Brantley, we have Kyle Tucker, and we have Chas McCormick,
or
Jake Myers, or Jose Siri. And you got Yordan Alvarez. We've got a litany of outfielders, but you guys sport a pretty impressive bunch. And Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, and Leary Garcia. When you look at your guys, Garcia, Robert, Eloy, do you think they hold a candle to the all-star outfield that the Astros and Tucker, Brantley, and let's just say Alvarez. Just
pretend that Alvarez is an outfield.
Yeah, because he's either DH or left field, or Brantley's DH or left field. So
I would say I'll give you guys the advantage on that one. But the best player out of all that you just named is Luis Robert. The best player. Like, it's by far, he might be the best player in this series. So he'll do it with the bat, and he is turned on the power tool like no other. Since he's come back from the IL in August 9th, I believe it was, he's leading the league in batting average. He's hit, I think, 12, 13 home runs. for the year. Let's see, 13 for home runs
13.
for the year.
Yeah.
Like, that's most of that power has come since August 9th. He is a force to be reckoned with, and he's 23. Like, I'm very, very excited for Luis Robert in these playoffs. He didn't have a great playoff last year in Oakland because he was kind of slowing down from a rookie year. But ask Michael Fiers where that ball landed. I think it's still traveling. He was so insulted that they put Michael Fiers against him. I know that's a common enemy for everybody, right?
Oh yeah, we don't talk about this guy.
That's a name that shall not be mentioned.
He's a rat. We hate that guy.
Yeah, I would go ahead and mention the catching situation, but that's not really a fair comparison.
Yay, we got one, Herb.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
But I'll tell you what, though, I love Maldonado's game. I love the edge that he brings. And, you know, the Sox need a guy like that, a solid defender who can just call the game back there, and you know whatever you're going to throw is not going to get by him. I don't know how the defense has been this year, but throughout his career, a pretty solid guy to have back there. And, you know, Yasmani Grandal has been playing out of this world since he got off the IL, and, you know, it's one of the strong parts of this team right now going in the postseason that's been firing in all cylinders is Yasmani Grandal. But I do envy the rock solid defense that a guy like Maldonado brings back there every day. Like that, he's fun to watch if you love watching baseball.
And like we've been discussing with you guys' lineup, like every single player pretty much, except for, I don't know, that Chas McCormick guy you named. If you had that Miles Straw guy who kills the White Sox as a Cleveland Indian, you could take him back right now and put him on the IL if you want. But every single position you have is a plus hitter and probably a plus fielder, except for your catcher. And once you have all those players who are doing well with the hitting, you don't need a catcher who's going to be hitting off the ballpark. And you got that if you need it in Jason Castro coming off the bench, which would be a nice backup for next year for the White Sox. Both of your catchers would be nice backups for the White Sox. Our backup catching situation is crap. Like, if you see Zach Collins in the game, we must be winning by 50 or losing by 50 because he is just that bad.
Well, keep in mind that Jason Castro is actually a great pinch hitter. He's a great late and close hitter.
Yes, I've renamed him Jason Clutchstro.
I see what you did there.
So, all right. So, I mean, we can talk about who's going to win the series, but obviously the Astros fans are going to say the Astros going to win. The White Sox are going to say the White Sox are going to win. But we can both agree that this is going to be a very interesting series with some great baseball, unlike another certain series that we're not going to talk about, where at least that series was close, closer than it appeared to be on paper. That's 2000 something series. We're not going to talk about it.
I remember that one. It was good. But also, I agree with you guys. This series is probably the best series out of the four that are going to be going in the ALDS. And I'm pissed that we're afternoon games, as if the third and fourth market are garbage and you got to bow down to Boston and Tampa. That series, come on now. Tampa's going to win that one walking away. We're at least going to have a great series where it's going to be competitive. There's going to be some animosity. There's going to be some back and forth, and people are going to like it. I guarantee people are going to learn about the White Sox and Astros during this season that they didn't know before this, and it would be great to put them on prime time on Thursday or Friday, one of the two games, and on Sunday we're prime time only because the Chicago Marathon's happening during the day here, so you can't, and it goes right by a guaranteed rate, so you can't have it in the afternoon. So it's messed up by MLB.
Let me give you just 15 seconds of why we should be prime time. The Astros have more playoff wins than any team since 2013. The Astros are going for their fifth straight ALCS. There's no reason why the lowly Red Sox or the budget-minded Rays should be prime time. We should be prime time, guys. We are prime time. The White Sox are prime time. The Astros are prime time. And this is going to be a prime time game no matter what time of day it's played. I'm excited.
Absolutely, I am too. And look, you know, the Astros are the class of the American League until proven otherwise, because you can tell me all you want about the Rays, but until they win one, I'm sorry, it's not going to work. But if the White Sox are going to take that next step and become one of the powerhouses of the American League, and you have all these cost control players and you have all the talent in the world, but it doesn't mean anything if you can't take that next step against a really good team like the Astros. So I know there's not a lot of people giving the Sox a shot, but it's because they have to go out there and prove it. They've got to earn it. And against the team like the Astros, there's no better test for this team because they're going to have to go through them eventually. And I hate that it's the first round because it's a tough draw, but you got to go through them anyway. So I'm looking forward to this series. Also, just being in the postseason on regularity. Now this is the first time in franchise history for the Sox back-to-back seasons, so that's just exciting in itself. But the Sox fans are hungry for more, and there's no better test than the Astros. I'm not a huge believer in the Rays, so I think this is it. This is one of the best matchups you'll see all postseason, and I agree. It should be on primetime.
Well, wow, Chris, you and I just became best friends. That was a great speech. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, I was like, you just gave us some props there. So that's awesome, man. So
Game
guys,
recognized game.
Yeah. So, guys, thank y'all for joining. And this was a awesome podcast. And thank guys, keep on subscribing. I'm not sure if y'all are on YouTube yet. Are y'all on YouTube or not yet?
Yeah, no.
Okay. All right. Well, let us know when you're on YouTube. We'll come on y'all show, but make sure y'all listen to Locked On Astros podcast, Locked On Sox podcast on Odyssey, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you listen to those, and make sure you keep on subscribing to Locked On Astros podcast on YouTube. I think we're at 1.62 thousand. So we're getting up there.
Yeah, man, we're almost at 1,700 subscribers. Let's go. Keep going, baby.
So keep on subscribing. And guys, this will be a great series, and we'll do a podcast right after the game tomorrow. Go Stros, go. Y'all have to say it. I can't say it.
Go White Sox.
Go Sox.
Go Sox.
Yeah, I could not say that. So well, hopefully it's a good series, and we'll catch up maybe at the end of the series to kind of reflect. But other than that, hopefully it's a great series, and go Astros, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.